This is a production of WKNO Memphis. Production funding for Sports Files is made possible in part by
Infinity of Memphis has moved to Germantown Road, just half-mile north of Wolf Chase Galleria, and is proud to support WKNO for its quality broadcasting and service to our community. Quality and service? No wonder Infinity of Memphis feels at home on WKNO.
the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
My guest today on Sports Files is Memphis Tigers men's soccer coach and former member of the U.S. national team, Richard Mulrooney. The World Cup Finals is set for Sunday, and while there's certainly interest in the match from many soccer fans in our country, around the world it's bigger than the Super Bowl. So the question is, despite viewing numbers having gone up this World Cup, why hasn't soccer taken off in the United States like it has just about in every other country around the world? The issue is certainly not with kids playing the game. In fact, more kids are playing soccer than just about any other sport. The issue is watching it. Some people think it's slow. Others don't like matches ending in draws or ties, if you will. And there's a lack of American stars, which makes for a bit of a disconnect. But with all that said, the 2014 World Cup has provided plenty of memorable moments and excitement. The scoring is up, and the U.S. national team pulled a nation together to root for an underdog squad that wasn't even a favorite to get out of its own group. The Americans not only surprised many by advancing to the knockout stage, but led by goalkeeper Tim Howard, put up a hard-fought battle against Belgium, eventually falling in overtime 2-1 in the round of 16. Today we'll talk World Cup with a former member of the U.S. national team, Richard Mulrooney, who also put together a 12-year career in the MLS and was the third overall pick in the 1999 college draft out of Creighton University. It's all next on Sports Files. Richard, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Let's get right into this World Cup and what happened earlier this week with Brazil. The host country, the favorites, they had not lost at home in their country since '75, and Germany beats them 7-1. Can you process this?
I mean, I had Germany winning by 5 goals, but when they got that 6th one, it blew me out of the water. Now, being all seriousness, I mean, in all my pools, I had Brazil winning it. I mean, in their home country, where their tradition, I just thought that they were the odds-on favorite, and they were, and they could probably play today and show a better game. Having said that, I mean, Germany was firing on all cylinders, caught Brazil on a bad day and punished them. And I think that just shows you on any given day, on any given sport, specifically soccer in the World Cup, that can happen. I mean, we saw how Spain got whooped early on by Holland 4-0, and they're the defending champs. So it's been a strange World Cup in that way, but having said that, that shows you how strong Germany is.
You've played for our national team, so you've been through this before. And this World Cup, I think the United States, like no other World Cup, has really come together as a country to support their team. But it's nothing compared to other countries. You know that. For Brazil, they live and die with that national team. And to see really a lackluster effort, not just that they lost and how they lost, but it seemed like after a couple of goals, they had given up. And that's something you don't normally see, not only in soccer, but in sports.
Yeah, I was shocked to see that not only 1 goal, 2 goal, 3 goal scores, it just kept elevating to higher levels. And to see Brazil, I've never seen them embarrassed at that level before. I doubt I ever will. It was something that I pinched myself yesterday wondering what was going on. And the fans in the crowd were shocked as well. And it's just something that, like I said, I don't think we'll ever see again. But having said that, I think it just, again, shows how well Germany played. They were firing on all cylinders, and they were relentless. I mean, they weren't happy with just a 1 or 2 goal victory. They kept going at them, and quite frankly, that's why you play 90 minutes.
Sunday will be the final. Germany's there. As we tape, the other semifinal is going on. Netherlands versus Argentina. So since we don't know who the victor is in that semifinal, give me a thought from both of those teams going up against Germany. Let's start with the Netherlands.
The Netherlands, I think they've got more individuals that can cause problems for Germany. I mean, Robben's been a handful. He's healthy. He did that for Bayern Munich this past year. He's as close to being one of the best players in the world as there is on Haaland. Van Persie up top's a Man United forward. I think he was injured for a couple games this World Cup. They're saying that healthy for today's game. I don't know. He's another one that can pump goals in. You have Schneider in the middle, who's the playmaker, the number 10. I think if you're looking for individuals to be able to perform against Germany, I think Holland might be the team. In terms of Argentina, to me personally, I think Messi's the best player in the world. I mean, every time he gets the ball, he has the opportunity to score or get an assist or just create chaos on the other team. I mean, it sort of reminds me of watching Jordan back in the day with the Bulls. I mean, anywhere you got the ball, you don't know what's going to happen, and it's most of the time it's positive. So I think if it was Argentina, Messi has a chance to pull it out for him, but I don't think they have as much firepower as a Holland, although it's not like Argentina's a pushover either. I mean, they've got world-class players, and I think either team could show their own, but it's going to be two sort of different styles. And quite frankly, I'd love to see Messi play again, but at the same time, I think the better game might be against Holland.
But Germany should be the favorite against either one?
If they play in the final like they did yesterday, they're the odds-on favorite. I mean, you play at that level, at that high, with scoring that many opportunities, yes, they've got to be the favorite.
How successful would you deem this World Cup for the United States?
I think it was successful on the field and off. And by that, I mean on the field, it was considered the group of death. I think Landon Donovan said it best. It's the group of death because we were in it. If we're not some podunk country that has never been to the World Cup before. Ghana obviously has made it to the second round, knocked us out a couple times. Germany, obviously, it shows what level they're at. And then Portugal, arguably has the best player in the world in Ronaldo, along with other world-class players. So for us to get out of that group, it shows the level that we're at, for sure. We're not far behind in the countries. I don't think we're a world elite team by any means. I think we're a world elite once we start making the quarters and the semis of these major tournaments year in and year out. And we haven't done that yet, but we're not far off. So on the field, it was a success. I would have loved to go on to the second round, or the third round rather, but it wasn't meant to be. I mean, Italy didn't even make the second round. Spain didn't even make it the second round. So to hold your head down and say, oh, it was a failure, it wasn't. Off the field, I think we're seeing with all the marketing, with all the interviews, with the publicity we've seen in the fan viewing centers in Chicago, Kansas City, New York, watching the games with that many people, right. It's a hit. And now we just have to continue that for the next few years until the next World Cup and keep building on it. And that's, I'd like to say I know the specific way of building it and keep it going, but having said that, that's not my job, and all I can do is obviously coach at the University of Memphis and try to produce players to get to that level so they can have that dream.
When you played for the national team, you played under Arena?
Yes, Bruce Arena.
Arena, Bob Bradley. Now you go with the German, Jurgen Klinsmann. Been there, done that. Played at a high level, coached at a high level. Is there a big difference when you bring in a guy who has that much success as opposed to the other two as far as the play? Being a player?
A bit. When Klinsmann talks, obviously I've never been in the locker room with him, but he won the World Cup, he won European championships, he was a finalist for Player of the Year numerous times. He's got the credibility. So if he tells you need to go down and try to get a cross in the box, that's what you do. You don't doubt that. And obviously he's the coach, so you're gonna believe that. Not saying if Bob or Bruce said that you wouldn't do that as well, but they're a different type of credibility. Bruce won 4 or 5 national championships at Virginia, that we all know, because at the time, all these players that played in the World Cup played in college. Claudio Reyna, Alexi Lawless, those guys all played in college against Bruce. So he was beating them in college and here in that respect. In the MLS, he won 2 or 3 championships with DC United. He's done it with LA now.
But we all know what a big difference it is from going from college to MLS and then going to World Cup.
For sure. And having said that, Bruce brought us to the furthest we've ever gone in the World Cup. Got us to the quarterfinals in 2002, lost to Germany, and it was a game that we wouldn't say necessarily we should have won, but we were in it till the last minute, and we kept them on their toes. So Bruce has earned that. Bob obviously coached at Egypt this past year, almost qualified them for the World Cup, won MLS Cups, did well in college. So it's different credibilities, but yes, with Klinsmann putting his words where his mouth is, absolutely. You listen to him, and brought Germany to a 3rd place in the last World Cup, got us to the second round, and I'm curious to see where he takes us for the next World Cup.
If I was to make you the soccer czar for a day, what changes to the game would you make, if any?
I think the game's pretty good the way it is right now. I think the offsides rule can be sort of tricky. I wouldn't mind, and again, that sort of, it creates talk with, referees making good calls and bads, and that's true with every sport. We're seeing it with baseball, with, the replay. We're seeing it with football, with the replay. It's like, does that diminish the game a little bit because it's not, the referees that's taking the control out of their hands? And it's the same thing with soccer. These guys are world-class athletes. You have referees and linesmen running on the sideline trying to raise their flag for offsides. It's tough. I wouldn't be able to do that on the sideline right now, and not necessarily that these guys can't, but maybe adding some technology in the game, such as the goal line technology. I think that's been great. I think it's been used once or twice in the World Cup that helped decide if it was a goal or not. You want the best team to always advance. You don't want it to be because a referee made a mistake or something was missed, and maybe technology might be the wave of the future for that.
It's interesting you brought up the offside because I've always said that myself, so I agree with you. You had a brilliant MLS career, 12 years playing in the MLS, 3 championships. What was that like for you, that experience?
Just a dream come true. Even at the beginning of my career, when I went to Creighton University, the MLS was just starting. So before then, in high school and in grade school, my dream of just earning a college scholarship was maybe as far as I was looking, because as a kid, you aren't thinking, oh, I'm going to go down to Mexico to play, or I'm not going to go to Spain and Germany. Not saying I couldn't have done it, but not many Americans had done it at that point. So when MLS was started, my freshman, sophomore year at Creighton, it gave me a goal of, wow, I get to play professional sports, specifically soccer, in my own country. It gave me something to shoot for. So when I was drafted out of Creighton to go play in San Jose, it was a dream come true. It gave me a chance to show myself on a level to make the national team, as well as to represent my family's name. As we all know, with kids, it takes a lot of money to support kids to play baseball, football, specifically soccer too. So to repay my parents by letting them watch their own son play on TV, it just put a smile on my face.
Your experience with the national team was good?
It was great. I've always said, anytime you're called on the national team, it's an honor. At that point in time, you're considered, for whatever reason, one of the 18 best players in the country. And if you end up starting the game, the coach thinks that you're one of the best 11 players to represent the country on that given day. Even if you're on the bench, to be in that environment, to know that you have the whole country supporting you, whether it's in the Gold Cup, whether it's in World Cup qualifiers, whether it be in the World Cup, it's just an honor, and it's something that you don't take for granted, because one day you might have the jersey on, the next day the up-and-coming Graham Zusi's going to come and take your place. And that's great, because it shows that there's development in this country, but at the same time, you just don't know if you're going to be there tomorrow.
So now you go from a very, very, very solid career to coaching. Last year at the University of Memphis under Richie Grant as an assistant, learning from Richie, who had a lot of success. Richie leaves, you get the gig, it's your program now. What are you going to teach these young players? What is going to be your style out there when we watch Memphis Tigers men's soccer take the pitch?
Yeah. First off, I'm honored to be in this position. I came back a couple years ago, obviously, because Richie hired me as an assistant. I wanted to learn under him, and I learned a bundle under him last year. And not knowing that he was going to be gone this year, I'm thankful that Tom gave me this opportunity, and I'm going in 100% with it. So I would say the difference is Richie has built a great foundation. He was 15 years here, made the NCAA tournament a couple times, had some All-Americans. It's something I can build upon. And moving forward, I just feel as though, as we talked about earlier, I maybe bring a little credibility. If I talk about if kids want to come in and play MLS, I've got contacts there. I'm not making promises that I can get kids there and all the kids here. They've got to come in and, from what I've seen in recruiting-wise, if they come in and produce and continue to get better, I'll give them a chance, hopefully, to be seen by MLS teams,
I remember when I came to Memphis in late 95, 96, and the soccer world around Memphis was pretty solid. There was a guy named Mulrooney.
Yes.
There was a guy named Paulie. There was a guy named Talley. There were some really, really good players. How good is the soccer in this area on the prep scene that you were trying to recruit to Memphis?
It's solid. I'm still learning the ins and outs of inside Memphis, along with the rest of the state and the country. But having said that, there is talent here. There's kids that are good enough to play at the University of Memphis. Some of them leave to go to play at, they're called academies, whether that be in Minnesota, whether that be in Chicago, around the country. But they're Tennessee kids. And if they're Tennessee kids, specifically, I want to keep them here in Memphis. I grew up here in Memphis. I know what it has to offer. The university is great. If a kid is from Memphis, I want him back at Memphis if he in fact is good enough to play at the University of Memphis. And if there is, whether they're inside the city or outside the city or in the state, we'll find them. I've got 2 other staff members that do a great job of recruiting. And like I said, to get this program to the best, you have to bring quality in. And I don't want quality leaving this city to go play at other places. They were born and raised here. I want them to stay here and be a Tiger.
I know you have crossed paths in your career with a guy named Tim Howard.
Yes.
Not too bad. Not too shabby a World Cup he had. Now just a household name. He lives part of the time in the Germantown, Collierville area. Can you call upon him to help you with the University of Memphis as far as maybe coming over to talk to the guys or in recruiting? Is that even possible?
It's possible. Obviously, there's a bunch of NCAA rules that I'm still learning as we go. I'm getting a better grip hold on it. So if it's within NCAA rules, which it is, we have each year, we have a Tommy Smith Foundation where we bring in a key speaker. Tim would be a great person to bring in for that. Unfortunately, I think that's maybe during his EPL season, so I don't think he's willing to miss a game versus Man United or Chelsea. But in due time, I think Tim will eventually hang up the gloves and come back to Memphis, and he will be definitely somebody that I'll call upon to come and talk about his experiences. And not only that, he's a great guy. I mean, we know him as a soccer player that makes great saves, represents our country, but off the field, he's an outstanding guy that is just of good character that I would want the other guys, or I should say my student athletes, to look upon and just be like, you know what, not only does he represent himself well on the field, he does that just as much off the field.
Richard, who was the greatest player you ever played with and played against?
I would say that the best player I played against there's two guys. When we played Brazil down in the Orange Bowl, it was Brazil's U23 team, and there was a guy named Kaká. And he just missed out on this World Cup team. He was, I think, part of their two previous ones. He was with Real Madrid, AC Milan. He actually just signed to come to MLS next year or the year after with Orlando City. But he's been there, done that. I mean, at one time he was the number 10 for Brazil and just has the strength, had the finishing, had the technical ability, had the smart. So he was a handful. Another guy, when we played Argentina down in Florida, not necessarily a name that everybody would know, but a guy's name was De Alessandro. Got signed by a German team, but I mean, in terms of creating fits for our team, I was on the bench that day watching, but I mean, if there was a guy that, as I said, like a Messi, he was it. I mean, finishing, passing, we couldn't stop him. So in terms of playing against, those would be the two. Playing with, I mean, I would have to say it's the best player in American history, in Landon Donovan. I mean, you mentioned earlier, I got 2 cups in San Jose. He was a good reason for one of them, if not both. I mean, he was in my mind, he reminds me of a Wayne Gretzky. He's a great finisher, but if you look at his assists, he's got just as many assists as goals. I mean, he could do it all. Technically, had a burst of speed about him, down to earth, good character. You know, he's not one to go out being pompous or bring a bunch of attention to himself that he doesn't need. When he steps on the field, he was all game, and I learned a lot from him. And I had I was very grateful to play with him with club and with country.
Richard, we like to end all our interviews with something we call 5 for the road. So I'm going to give you 5 questions,
okay,
and the first thing that comes to mind, that's how you need to answer it.
Great.
Favorite professional sports team?
Grizzlies. I went to the games with my son last year a couple times, and
so you're a big Grizz fan.
Absolutely.
All right. Favorite pro athlete?
At the moment, Messi. I mean, he is just something special to watch. He's more or less the Michael Jordan of soccer, and anytime he gets the ball, it's exciting.
So you're just amazed watching. How about when you were a kid? Did you have a poster on your wall? Who was it?
Jordan.
It was Jordan.
Yeah. Favorite
music or group or genre? What do you like to listen to?
I'm an all-around type of guy. My wife turned me into sort of a country. We have Garth Brooks has a foundation for current athletes and former athletes that he puts together so that you give money to, and each year he gives a special concert to. So I'm very thankful that he raises money on that end, but at the same time, I've gotten to know Garth, not on a professional level, but in just shaking hands, and he's an outstanding guy, so I'll say Garth Brooks.
Fantastic. Favorite movie of all time?
Forrest Gump.
You were the second one to say Forrest Gump.
Who was the first?
Well, it's a guy that will be coming on in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Stephen Gostkowski.
Okay.
Of the New England Patriots.
Wow.
Also said Forrest Gump. That's quite interesting.
Okay.
And finally, we'll wrap it up with your favorite television show.
Oh, I love your show, but
thank you.
Absolutely, it's a day-to-day show. I have it recorded, and after the kids go to bed and the wife goes to bed, I just catch up with sports. PTI.
PTI.
Yes.
Man, that's great.
Yeah.
But how about if it was a non-sports show?
Non-sports show? What else do I have, TiVo? It's gotten less now that I've got a 2- and 6-year-old. We're watching, and I saw it in your back room. You're watching Curious George. You're watching Sid the Science Kid.
It's all about the kids.
It is. WKNO, thank you for keeping my kids calm. But having said that, you know what? I like Shark Tank.
I love Shark Tank as well. Richard, we love that you came by and stopped by and that you're the head coach of the Memphis soccer team. We appreciate it. Best of luck to you.
Thank you for the support. I appreciate it.
We'll take a quick break. When we come back, it's overtime. Recently, a USA Football initiative called Heads Up Football was on display in Memphis. Heads Up Football is being taught all around the country and was showcased at Bill Muir's youth football camp, which took place at MUS. Muir is a longtime NFL offensive and defensive coordinator and former college coach who has been singing the praises of heads-up football as a revolutionary change to the game. The new tackling technique is a way for young football players to enjoy the game in a safer environment with a reduction in concussions. The hope is that a safer game will help steer youngsters back to the sport of football, which has certainly taken a hit from all the negative publicity. With Bill Muir and other coaches who teach the new method of safe tackling, the hope is that the sport they love will continue to produce young, talented players who may one day perform at higher levels of pigskin.
We're under the umbrella USA Football, which is an organization, a relatively new organization, about 3 or 4 years old, that is trying to assemble a program that governs youth football. And I use the word govern judiciously. What we're trying to do is establish an environment that teaches safety, education in terms of areas like hydration, concussion, equipment fitting, all things that would help participation to be safer. You know, this is a contact sport. It is competitive. All right, so there are going to be collisions. There are going to be injuries. But quite frankly, these can be minimized if the approach is across the board, the approach is to a more educated way to play the game. Doesn't mean the game's going to change, but the one thing we really would like to emphasize on the playing level is taking the head out of all aspects of football as a primary point of contact. So it was researched very thoroughly, not just by football people, but doctors, people who study just the physics of the body, and they developed a plan that they call heads-up football. And it's not dramatic, but it's a subtle way that tackling is changed, where no longer is the head involved primarily, no longer is the top of the shoulder involved. We stress keeping the head up and blocking with the front of the shoulder with the head to the side. May seem like a little thing, but when you're blocking and tackling, if you can begin to develop that, that's why, not that our emphasis is, but we'd like to start on the youth level. Great admiration for the men and women who volunteer their time for these youth football programs, but we think we could be of great assistance to them, especially the ones that don't have a big football background. It's a nominal amount of money to join. I think it's $5 a coach to join USA Football, and they get a wealth of information, not just handouts, but we have videos. We'll send people to clinic them, and they can find out anything from a playbook to a practice plan to an evaluation form. It's a tremendous resource. I like to liken it to a library of football that all the youth players, coaches, and parents could take advantage of.
Yeah!
Obviously, the NFL is worried about concussions, but they want to teach little kids meaning, we have them from the 1st grade here to the 8th grade, how to tackle properly, to keep their head out of the contact, not to use it as a weapon. And so there's a program, a step regimen that we put the kids through in order to teach them that. So it's going to be a nationwide thing, and Bill is certified to teach people to teach it. And this is actually his daughter's project, Keelan French, and Bill and I go back 1,000 years, and so he asked me to come help, and I couldn't say no.
Why Memphis? Why these kids today?
Well, as I said, Keelan French lives in Memphis, and she set this all up. And her dad and I have both coached in the National Football League for a long time. And so he was in charge of teaching it. He taught it to me. We've been teaching it to the kids, and they asked me to come help. And when a friend asks you to do something, especially when it involves kids, if you can't enjoy these little kids, something's wrong with you. You watched it. I mean, they're, now it's like herding cats, but they're fun. And it's not the normal camp. I mean, it wasn't running around. It was a lot of hard work. We demanded a lot of things from them, and it went very well.
There you go. There you go. Nice. Good job. Good job.
And our thanks to Bill, who has spent more than 40 years coaching football, including stints with 8 NFL teams. The Memphis Grizzlies will wrap up Summer League play in Orlando, Florida tomorrow. As of our taping date, the Grizzlies took 2 of their first 3 games, and both rookie Jordan Adams and Jarnell Stokes, who we profiled on last week's show, have played extremely well. Adams has had games of 22 and 20 points, while Stokes has produced 2 double-doubles. One other note, also as of our taping date, free agent Mike Miller, a friend of the show, had not made any decision about his future. A decision is expected any day. Now, aside from the Grizzlies, Miller is being courted by several teams, including Oklahoma City and Denver. Next week is SEC Football Media Days in Hoover, Alabama. Sports Files will be on location, and we'll have interviews from there. Plus, we'll talk with Titans receiver, return specialist Dexter McCluster, the former Ole Miss Rebel star. And that'll do it for now. Remember, you can see any of our previous shows by simply heading to our website, WKNO.org, and clicking on KNO Tonight. Until then, have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Production funding for Sports Files is made possible in part by
Infiniti of Memphis has moved to Germantown Road, just half-mile north of Wolf Chase Galleria, and is proud to support WKNO for its quality broadcasting and service to our community. Quality and service? No wonder Infiniti of Memphis feels at home on WKNO.